At that time, Jesus said to his disciples, "You have heard that it was said, 'An eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth.' But I say to you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. If anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, let him have your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to everyone who begs from you, and do not turn away from anyone who wants to borrow from you." At that time, in Capernaum on the Sabbath, Jesus entered the synagogue and began to teach. The people were astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. Immediately a man with an unclean spirit was in their synagogue, and he cried out, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." But Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Be quiet and come out of him." And the unclean spirit convulsed him, cried out with a loud voice, and came out of him. They were all amazed, so that they discussed with one another, saying, "What does this mean? This is a new teaching, and he has authority. He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him." And at once his fame spread everywhere throughout all the surrounding region of Galilee. At that time, one Sabbath Jesus was going through the fields. His disciples were picking some heads of grain, rubbing them in their hands, and eating them. But some of the Pharisees said to them, "Why are you doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath?" Jesus answered them, "What did David do when he and his companions were hungry? He went into the house of God and took the bread of the presence, ate it, and gave it to his companions, which only the priests may eat. Haven't you read that?" Then he said to them, "The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." At that time the disciples came to Jesus and said, "Who then is greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And Jesus called a little child to him, set him in the midst of them, and said, "Truly I tell you, unless you turn and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself like this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. See that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I tell you, in heaven their angels always behold the face of my Father, who is in heaven. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray, does he not leave the 99 on the mountains and go in search of the one that is lost? And if he finds it, truly, I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. Even so, it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish." At that time, the Pharisees and the scribes said to Jesus, "John's disciples fast often and pray, and so do the disciples of the Pharisees, but yours eat and drink." Jesus answered them, "Can you make the wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom will be taken away from them, and then they will fast." Jesus also told them this parable. "No one tears a piece of a new garment and sews it onto an old garment. Otherwise, not only will he tear the new, but the piece of the new will not be joined to the old. No one puts new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the new wine will burst the skins and be spilled, and the skins will be ruined. But new wine must be put into new wineskins. And no one, after drinking old wine, desires new wine. For as they say, old wine is better." At that time, King Herod sent men to arrest John and bound him in prison. The reason was that the king had taken Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, and John had said to him, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." Herodias held a grudge against John and wanted to kill him, but she could not. Indeed, Herod knew that John was a righteous and holy man, and he feared John, protecting him. When he heard John, he was greatly perplexed, yet he liked to listen to him. An opportune day came. On his birthday, King Herod gave a feast for his nobles and high officials from Galilee. The daughter of Herodias came in and danced, pleasing Herod and his guests. The king said to the girl, "Ask me for whatever you want, and I will give it to you." And he promised her with an oath, "Whatever you ask, I will give you, up to half my kingdom." She went out and said to her mother, "What should I ask for?" Her mother answered, "The head of John the Baptist." Immediately she hurried back to the king and requested, "I want you to give me at once the head of John the Baptist on a platter." The king was deeply distressed. Because of his oaths and his guests, he did not want to refuse her. So immediately the king sent an executioner with orders to bring John's head. The man went, beheaded John in the prison, brought his head on a platter and gave it to the girl, and the girl gave it to her mother. When his disciples heard of this, they came and took his body and laid it in a tomb.